Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 8 of your Daily DM. This is Mahwish, and we have Debbie here. Hi, Debbie. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. We have a very heavy topic today. It's stress and anxiety. And so we've been brainstorming on how to tailor this topic because we live it every day, we feel it every day. It could be from your workplace environment, you could be having stress and anxiety during personal life, you could be facing it from a geopolitical aspect, it could be, what's going on in the world. Anything can trigger stress and anxiety. And so it's very near and dear to our heart, I believe, both of us. And so we're going to talk about how to deal with it, what triggers it, how does it differ from men and women. And so yeah, let's get started, Debbie. Let's start with you. How do you feel, and what are we going to talk about today?
Well, thanks, Mawish. How do I feel? I think similar to you, right? There's been a lot of stress from various sources, especially work lately, and especially the larger world and political environment and the effect that that's actually having on work and people at work. So it should be an interesting discussion. Usually when you're thinking of stress, you don't want to focus more on it, right? You want to not focus on it. So we're going to talk about it today, which is focusing on it, which in and of itself could feel a little bit stressful, but let's see how it goes.
Yeah, you said it right. I can tell you that as we were about to hit the record button, I was feeling stressed out because we were going to talk about stress and anxiety. And I don't know why, but it's just, I never get stressed out talking on a podcast. But today was, and Debbie said, time out. Let's just get our thoughts together and see what's going on. And yeah, and that's sometimes what you need, right? You need somebody to talk to. You need to be able to vent to the person you trust, which is you, Debbie, things that are going on, right? It could be you're not sleeping well. It could be you're not sleeping well because of personal reasons, because of workplace environment. It could be anything. So I think it's important to talk about such an important aspect because we feel it every day, experience it every day, but more importantly, how do we manage it?
Absolutely. I also think that even if somebody comes across to you as though they are calm and they're okay, stress and anxiety is just a common part of life. It happens to everyone. And maybe we have differences in physiological response, but talking about it is important. It's something everyone can relate to. So,
Yeah. So let's touch upon that. How do you think men experience anxiety versus women? So gender differences. And do you think that they manage it differently?
well, I'm not a man, but what I've learned, and at least as I understand it, is that men know how to compartmentalize things really well. And so I think the processing of stress is a little bit more, I don't want to speak for any man out there, but the only way I can think of describing it is maybe a little more cognitive than it is for a woman who internalizes and physically feels the stress and cannot separate the mental portion of stress from the emotional response. And I think that that's maybe the main difference. There are different ways of processing stress between men and women, where men, it tends to be healthy for them to just get it out, vent it, go be violent and pick up beat up a punching bag or whatever the case is. Like, I mean, a literal punching bag. Don't use someone as a punching bag.
Important to clarify.
That's
Important.
important clarification. Yeah, no using somebody else as a punching bag. But for women, the more you bring up an event, the more damaging it is, or it prolongs the re-experience of the issue because it re-triggers the emotional response, re-triggers the actual going through the issue for the woman. So yes, you should absolutely talk to somebody about it. and get it out, but then don't keep rehashing it. Don't keep putting yourself through the same trauma again and again.
Yeah, it's because females, like you said, feel it from a physical perspective, right? So we tend to be a lot more emotional in certain aspects and we feel it a lot more. And like you said, men tend to compartmentalize it, right?
It's true. Men are built to fight battles, right? And go do those types of things. And women, I guess we're supposed to be the gatherers, right? So we're not the hunters, we're the gatherers. I mean, just generally, like from a nature perspective, we have much more nurture, and that is intertwined with the cognitive parts of our makeup.
Yeah, and to let's touch upon just some of the triggers for you or for I, right? What could be some of the triggers for work for just having stress and anxiety? I'll tell you. I'll start with myself. Some of the triggers for me, from a holistic perspective, it's the geopolitical, the world issues that we're experiencing. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a trigger for me. So I managed it because I would look at news first thing in the morning whenever I would wake up, and that would give me anxiety. So I stopped looking at the news and watching news on TV
Mm-hmm.
first thing in the morning. I don't do that
Yeah.
anymore. It was getting to me, right? It was affecting me throughout the day. Then the other trigger for me is the sheer stress of what we do. It's a very stressful environment. I know we can't discuss details, but we're in an industry where it impacts lives, but more importantly, it's also the environment around us right now,
Mm-hmm.
which is very stressful. Because also from an economical perspective, a lot is changing. And so we're reacting to it as things are changing every day. And that also puts a lot of pressure on us because we have to serve the business, we have to serve our customers and so forth. And we work in a for profit business, not for a non-profit business. So there are expectations you have to meet every day. That carries with me throughout the day, and it affects sometimes my ability to get up, and that's not healthy, right? So what I try to do is I take a lot of vitamins. I start taking vitamins. um, and then when I am at home, I try to regularly go and work out. And that's not going to the gym and getting on a treadmill. It's high impact cardiovascular indoor cycling, which requires a lot of, like you said, physical aggression, which helps me, honestly, because that's when I think about what I'm going to do next, gives me the clarity. And that's what I need sometimes, right? Yeah. And then what has helped me is changing my outlook in life. I cannot be a perfectionist, nor do I want to be. At early on, I wanted to be a perfectionist in everything I do, and it's just not possible, feasible. And I believe nobody's expecting us to be that way. At least I'm not expecting myself to be a perfectionist. So that has changed my outlook in life. But sometimes when I'm stressed out, I go back to my old ways. And that's always the battle I'm having within my own inner self. Little habits, healthy eating helps me, being physically active helps me with how I feel, right? Because if I feel like I look good, then I feel better. So little changes in lifestyle have also helped me. But more importantly, just accepting the reality, your today, just accepting it, because some days are going to be good, some days are going to be bad, and just navigating through those bad days, because those are also, there's a lesson learned in them. Sometimes it's hard to see, but I keep on reminding myself there's something good that's going to come out of whatever you're going through at that time. You may not see it today, you may not see it tomorrow, but there has to be something good that comes out of the struggle and the stress and the anxiety you're going through. So let me pause and give you a chance to discuss, what are your triggers and how do you manage them?
Well, before I get into that, what you were describing to me, it just sounds like a maturing process. Life is a journey. And I was telling somebody this yesterday. The things that we go through in life, they're incrementally more difficult, right? Because once you master a certain level and something no longer bothers you,
Yeah.
obviously that same level is not going to bother you the next time. You're not even going to notice it. You're going to say, I know how to react in this situation. And then the next incremental level of stress is just like, what the heck, right? And you're not getting what you want. And I mean, they say you're getting experience every time you don't get what you want. So that's what you're getting out of it, but it does create stress until you're able to figure out how to master that or figure the solution out, right? You're talking about you have to problem solve. Both of us are, that should just be our title. Problem solver. That's it. That's my job all day, every day. And that's what you were describing, going to work out, get that aggression out, let your brain think, and now you've solved the problem. And a lot of times what comes with that is now I know how to deal with this level.
Yeah.
I just dealt with level 4 stress and anxiety, but then the next time it's going to be level 5. And here it comes, or it's coming from a different angle. Work stress is different than relational stress, which is different than the political environment, because the political environment's not necessarily directly touching you, but it is, but it's not. It's kind of like 3 levels removed, and then it's 2 because it's impacting work. And then you've got the one-on-one relationships that are then impacted by that. But you just described maturing and getting better, which is what all of us have to do until we're not here. I mean, like, that's it. That is literally the name of the game. And so the other piece you mentioned that was important, that I think is the key thing to managing stress, is, amongst the other things like eating right and exercising and those things, is reframing the situation as best you can, putting what you're dealing with into perspective so that you can figure out how to mature to the next level. Because managing stress is not ignoring the issue. Sometimes you have to remove yourself from direct contact to be able to think so that you can get through it. That's what you're doing when you go to the gym, right? You're removing yourself from the situation so that you can get a break, so that you can actually get the mental space you need to work through it. Yeah, but I mean, that's it. You've got to reframe it.
Yeah. And I would say a lot of times when we are thrown a curveball, the first thing we do is react, right? That's part of the human nature. You react, but sometimes it's important to just process. Allow your time to process what you've just been dealt with, right? Like whatever situation you're going through, I think it's okay to process whatever you're going through and then reflect. And yes, I think anytime you're going through an experience for the first time, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So very good point, because you've never experienced it. How do you manage that step? How do you manage the situation? But I know at the end you come out a lot stronger. And then the next time, hopefully it doesn't happen to you the next time, but whenever the next time is, different flavor, different situation, you know how to navigate through it. And I think that's important.
Yeah. No, processing is a reaction. When you can get yourself into a state where that is your initial reaction, is okay, thanks for that information. Let me process, right? That is the reaction, not, whatever the primal response would be, which is.
But not everybody, Debbie, would be like, thanks for the information. Sometimes.
No,
yeah.
Of course not. That's when you reach level 8 stress. Right. And there are stages to dealing with the stress. And I feel like if we're looking at it like a video game, which
Right.
I'm talking about levels like it's a video game or something. Yeah, the lower levels are just you figured out you're not going to die in this situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the basic. And then you kind of get to a point where you're like, the world's not going to end because this particular thing has happened. And then as you're moving along and learning about yourself, I think you can get to that point where your reaction is, okay, here's more information now. What do I do with this?
Certain events happen in your life where it might just be your reaction, no matter how much you've matured, your reaction might be not what you would have imagined. Every
For
event,
sure.
every
For sure.
situation is different. But it's just important, I believe, to not be worried about what others are going to think because they're not going through what you're going through. So, a lot of times people think, oh, I shouldn't react this way because so and so.
Yeah.
No, you react however you want to react, obviously
Yeah.
within the realm of the laws and whatever. I'm not saying that, you go punch somebody else, but if you need the time to not do anything and be in your house for a week, do it. Nobody is going to stop you. And it's okay because sometimes a lot of us are concerned about the societal norms. No, you need the time, you need the time.
Yeah.
Go take a week off from work because the person that's going through that situation is only you, and you know how to go through it, process it, and get to the next step. Nobody's going to help you through that, no matter what.
Yeah. And I think on that note, you have a statistic on that even.
Yes, I do. World Health Organization, I particularly looked at mental health at work, and it is a upcoming issue. It is very important. They basically said 15% of working age adults were estimated to have a mental disorder in 2019. That's significant. That's just who they might have surveyed. It's not inclusive of everybody, right? So I'm sure it's even higher than 15%. But we talked about the triggers and how to manage it. There's personal and emotional journey you have to go through. But also, when you're going through that journey, you don't think about the productivity aspect of it. It's important to point out that companies around the world have to take mental health and stress and anxiety into account. Globally, WHO estimated 12 billion working days are lost every year to depression and anxiety. And that costs about $1 trillion per year in lost productivity. That's significant. So that means that the companies, the workplace settings have to be able to provide opportunities at work so we can be effective at work. And they should be considering initiatives, programs that essentially help promote mental health at work, which means if you need to go take that mental health day, your supervisor, your manager should be okay with it and should promote it because that helps you be productive in the long run. So let me just pause, get your thoughts, and if anybody in the audience is watching us, tell us what your thoughts are and if your workplace promotes mental health.
So I think it's more than a program too. It's also the environment that you create as a manager that really counts. For those of us who are managing other people, we are responsible for the tone that we create at work. Yes, you're there to get a job done, but constantly pushing people to the point of exhaustion, that's going to create and lead to this situation that you're referring to where it's lost productivity days, right? It's not really a lost productivity day to give somebody a day off so that they can recover and get some sleep. I was on a call earlier today with somebody who was working and sending emails and stuff, and it was 12:30 a.m. at his time, and he doesn't work for me directly, but I told him, this is not good. You need to make sure you go get rest. You got to watch out for stuff like that. If somebody mentions a comment like that and it's in your control, don't ignore it. Make sure that it's not, oh, thanks for doing that. Like that's the norm. Don't create a norm for your employees where they feel that they're a number or what have you. Most employees want to do a good job. And so it's really up to the manager to define what a good job means. And it should not be that you're praising people for burning themselves out. That's, yes, programs are important, but it's the day to day. It's not a program that's going to stop an employee from burning out. Your manager is driving you, but we got this program, go use it. That it has to be alongside the day to day.
Yeah, everything has to be balanced out, and that's the hardest part. How do you yourself set boundaries and balance your everyday life so you're not at the state of burnout? And then how does one detect that they've burned out? Any tips?
Well, I think we covered that in another episode, but it's worth repeating here because stress and anxiety unmanaged does lead to that. You start to disconnect. You stop feeling motivated. It's kind of a bit of a hopelessness that takes over. I can't remember the details of that information that I had pulled up at the time, but essentially it shows up in a lack of motivation. I don't care anymore, non-responsiveness, I'm checking out. I can't handle this anymore.
And I feel angry. I'm angry for no reason. I'm cranky.
Oh yeah, because you're being pushed beyond natural limits.
Right, exactly. And so, and then you can take out that frustration and anger towards your family, towards your friends, towards your coworkers,
Mm-hmm.
also on your team. You may not realize it. And like you said, your tone changes.
Mm-hmm.
So they also feel it.
Yep.
People around you can feel it. They might not say anything, but they can feel it. Yeah, I think it's a good reminder for people to have because, we've talked about it, but sometimes I also forget it. You just pointed it out before we started the call, right? Because I don't want to acknowledge that it could be that I'm at a point of burnout because I don't think in that way. I might be thinking I might have not slept and that's why I'm tired and not energized. But sometimes you need somebody else to tell you, hey, are you burned out?
Yeah, that's where it's really important, especially as women, to get super familiar with how you feel. Because for me, this all starts in my stomach. It starts churning and then it starts to work its way up. And then I feel it in my shoulders and I'm like, something is wrong. And then it's a matter of, all right, who's bringing their bad juju around me? Right? Something.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to reiterate that good stress, stress is good. We need stress to improve as humans. You go to the gym, you work out, you stress your muscles. That's how they grow. You have to stretch your mind. You have to deal with some level of stress so that you can grow and mature, get smarter, get more fit, more whatever. But it's the continued, unrelenting toll that living in a particular environment that just does not let up, that is when it becomes dangerous and you have to figure it out from there.
You remind me sometimes I say, I don't like selling my soul. And I'm exaggerating, right? Like, I don't like it. If I have to sell my soul, that means that I'm doing it outside of what I am okay with. And that takes a toll on me. If I have to sell my soul for something, that just basically, and that doesn't mean I'm selling my soul. It's just going against my human nature. Yeah. And that's what takes a toll on you. At least that's what takes a toll on me.
There's a lot of stuff that takes tolls on us. It's really figuring out how to balance everything.
Anything that can help, right? And make you feel better. healthier,
Yeah.
and have the mental clarity that you need. Sometimes we only think in one way, and sometimes you just need to give it time and do things to give you that other perspective that you might be missing because you have a tunnel vision at that time. So anything that you can do, take a walk, infrared
Yep.
sauna, listen to music, watch mind numbing shows. Sometimes I do that. Guilty pleasure, right? Just where I don't have to use my brain, I will watch it because it just helps relax me. Or shows that are funny, right? That helps too. Anything that works for you. Anything, but you have to find what works for you. Whoever's watching this episode, find things that help you feel better, and learning about what works, what doesn't work. Lessons learned, I always say lessons learned, right? Reflect, have the time to reflect, whether it be through exercising, whether it be taking a walk, whether it be venting, whether it be getting another perspective. I think, I sometimes feel better just venting, taking it like just, and I think women tend to do that, right? We like to talk
Yeah.
to our friends that can understand our perspective. So if that works for you, do it.
I I think it's very useful to talk out how you're feeling or talk about an issue you might be dealing with so that, with somebody you trust so that you can work through it. Another thought is to, as best you can, keep yourself in a mental position of being in the authoritative position.
Yeah.
You're not a victim to the thing that's coming at you. And I think if you keep that strong position of you are in control, the thing you're in control is reaction, but that is how you manage it, is
Right.
your reaction.
Yeah.
Like things will come at you, but they don't have to happen to you. I don't know. It's I don't know. I'm trying to explain it.
That's well said. They will come at you, but you don't have to react
As a
to,
victim.
yes, as a victim. True.
Yeah,
Very good perspective. Right. I mean, the victim mentality is only going to be destructive to yourself because whatever you're going through is not going to change. It might make it worse,
correct.
right? In the long run. Very good point.
Mm.
Should we
All
wrap it
right.
up, Debbie?
We should wrap it up. Well, that was a good conversation, Mahwish.
No, I mean, like I said, right? It's near and dear, and to both of us,
Near and dear and every day, baby.
every day, every day. Yeah. And I'm sure that everybody else out there in the world, in the country, is feeling it, right? In some way, shape, or form. It's how you react to it. Don't play the victim card. Have mental clarity. Be authoritative, in control of your situation, and identify things that work for you. If writing down things work for you, do it. Whatever works for you, find out what works for you, implement it, and take the needed time that you need to process it and work through whatever you're going through.
The only thing I would add to that is that if what you're going through feels hard, it's because you've made it to that level. This is just the new level of hard for you, but it doesn't mean that it's not something that you can handle. Yeah, so stick with it. And I know that you'll get there. And for now, we wish you all good mental health, free of stress and anxiety, or a quick way through it.
And one more ad, I might have forgotten to mention it. There are resources online, and one of which is Anxiety and Depression Association of America. They've got multiple resources, multiple articles, and there's treatment, there's science, there's education, whatever you need to help navigate through the situation, it's all there. So just wanted to point it out if anybody's needing any resources.
And we'll figure out how to link it below.
Yes. All right.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. On
Bye.
that note, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.